Oh, hi.
Hi there.
I forgot to tell you that I also sing. I don't know if you watch some of these
Oh, I haven't. Let's hear it.
because I don't have a jingle for the morning muffin, so I just kind of like sing it.
I
Good
love it.
morning. Welcome to the Morning Muffin Show, your morning carbo load of real estate. Cha cha.
I love it. That's a good jingle. You just need a little
Well,
music behind you.
thank
Some
you.
jazz
Yeah,
hands.
I know, like a little.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Yeah. There you go.
okay, well, for those of you out there watching, today is Market Monday, and I am meeting with Katie Bean of Katie Bean and Company, a real estate group here at Keller Williams Integrity Realty Lakes in Minneapolis, Minnesota.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate this. This is fun.
And so Katie is going to be joining me every other Monday for market updates.
That's right.
And
Yes. Excited for that. Yeah. It sounds like some fun topics ahead.
I think so. They're interesting. I never stick to the same subject. I kind of bounce around and stuff. This isn't a serious real estate blog. We do like to talk about ideas, opinions, and what it really feels like out there. Because I think that the media sometimes gives a different perspective than what's actually happening on the ground floor.
It's so true. And I think that's a big thing is sharing with people like real time activities. Like what did we see this week, right? What did we see this past weekend? So yeah, absolutely.
And this past weekend was nuts because
It was crazy.
it's end of month. So,
Mhm.
and it's coupled with spring break and it's
Mhm.
coupled with a holiday weekend coming up. And so I think that was and spring market. There was
Yeah.
a lot of activity over this past week.
Right, right. We saw an increase in listings a little bit. We went from barely anything to a little bit more, but a lot of buyers out there. People are not waiting around.
Yeah, and actually, Wall Street Journal came out with that article last week about
Yeah.
how there's more agents than listings.
That's concerning, isn't it, for those of us in this industry? But it tells you something, right? I mean, not only are there more buyers than there are houses, now there's more realtors than there are houses. That's interesting. We've not encountered that before.
Yeah, my husband and I had dinner last night together, and we were talking about that article because there's a gal across the street from us that just got her real estate license, and she has a newborn baby. And he's like, Jen, what are you going to tell her? And I'm like, I don't know, like
Yeah,
she's trying, she can do it because I did it as like
right.
a mom with a baby and stuff.
Absolutely.
But it's
Absolutely.
really difficult market right now.
Well, I think much like entering into the real estate as a career is also like entering into real estate as an owner. Real estate is made for the long term, right? You need to think of it for a while. So I think entering in, it isn't a slam dunk. You're going to do really, really well right out of the gate. You have to build it, much like investing in real estate. There's flips, but they're hard to do. Your best thing is holding long term and staying with it. So, yeah, she's in for a ride to begin with, that's for sure.
I know. So let's get to the topic today. I'm going to put this over your face. Sorry about
Sure.
that.
No.
Housing sizes and changes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because we saw an interesting statistic. It's hard to talk about real estate like it was before the pandemic because we're not out of it yet.
No. No, we're very much still in the midst of this. Absolutely. And we haven't seen the ramifications of it yet.
Right, right. Yeah.
Mhm.
So although, and what you mean by that, you mean the forbearances, deferments, things like that.
Absolutely. Right. So right now we're still dealing with how do we maneuver this, right? We've made lots of adjustments that way. We're dealing with people looking at their homes differently because they have a moment to pause and look at that, and sellers have some time to get their homes ready and stuff, but we haven't seen the actual effects of, let's say, the negative effects of this on the real estate market yet. The effects so far have actually been very positive, other than not enough homes for people. But sellers are loving this, right?
They are. Well, and I think sellers have seen we've seen a couple of things. I think we saw a lot of potential sellers that could have been selling and making great money this past year choose to refinance instead.
True. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So that's where we look at, like, what are the effects of this down the road? Do those people stay in their houses longer, or do they just are they just saving money monthly right now, which is a great thing to do to take advantage of. Another thought that occurs to me is with these really, really low interest rates, are we potentially borrowing or getting buyers that would be future buyers for us now because those rates have just allowed them to get into the market sooner than maybe they normally would have. So the rates are definitely a factor. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
one of the articles that we have here, and I will, for most of these articles, I have downloaded this PDF from NAR, which is the National Association of Realtors, and it's the profile of home buyers and home sellers in 2020. And one of the unique trends that we saw, which I feel like is the pandemic, it was already a trend. Okay.
Sure.
But now the pandemic has kind of exacerbated it, or the need for it, which is multi-generational living.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Well, as we see prices increase like they have, it may take more than one person's salary to pay for that house. So not only are we looking at maybe multiple people, paying into that mortgage to be able to make it happen, but yeah, and there's also a drive, we're seeing so many people moving out into the suburbs that have a bigger house and can then house more people, right? Yeah, really interesting.
Well, and I think I think in this marketplace in Minnesota is so unique because number one, we have quite a large per capita amount of people with bachelor degrees. So we're extremely educated here in Minnesota.
Absolutely.
But now we have coupled that with over 30 Fortune 500 companies here. We are attracting people from all over the United States. So what that means too is if we have two like double income families with they both have student loans, and now they're buying a house and they're both working full time, they need daycare, and daycare prices can be sometimes as much as your mortgage.
Absolutely.
So I think that multi-generational living is not only covering two birds with one stone, is allowing out-of-state family to come and live with you and help take care of your children, but also to be part of their lives.
Right. Well, it's really interesting. I think, again, the trend was building, but I think the pandemic has also allowed all of us to realize we don't have to be in necessarily one spot like we did before. Right? The work from home, kid homeschool, all these different things have now allowed people a little bit more sense of freedom of like, hey, I'm going to go move back by my family, right? I don't have to be in this city anymore. I can go somewhere else, and vice versa. So it's definitely, I think it's provided a new outlook, right, for people. To just say, hey, I can be anywhere, and we can get a big house, and we can move grandma and grandpa in, and we can take care of them. They're going to have the whole lower level, and yet they can be a part of the kids' lives. So, and interestingly, this happens all over the world. It's just new here, right?
I know, isn't that strange?
Yeah, exactly. This is what most countries do, right? You had kind of talked about that briefly when we were talking before, of this movement from every child having their own room and their own bathroom and the master suite. We have become very spoiled individuals in terms of what we expect for our housing, right? And we've had the ability to be that way. Certainly not a norm for most people in this world.
Yeah. And that's true. I have some other statistics here, which I will drop, of course, in the comments. But one of them was talking about the average family size. We kind of idealized the 1950s and 60s, the nuclear family, which on average was between 3 to 4% or 4 people per household. Right. And then, enter birth control, enter women's rights. And that has actually gone down to, an average of like one child between two adults.
Right.
And so it's very interesting to watch that trend change, but watch the
Yeah.
houses
Get
get a
bigger.
little bigger.
Families got smaller and houses got bigger, right?
Yeah, yeah. Oh, we got a comment. It's from Nadine. She's watching us.
Oh, hey, Nadine.
Hi, Nadine. I didn't
We
tell her you
love
were going to
Nadine.
be on today.
Oh, she's the best.
Yeah, and Nadine is in the Philippines where she is used to that multi-generational living. Like it's just the norm there.
Right, right. Yeah. Isn't that
Mhm.
interesting? Yeah. So it's really, it's funny because I think we've seen, the small houses in the city, right? That's where you had your big families in there, 5 kids sharing bedrooms, that type of thing. And then we saw this movement out to the suburbs, right? Which was the country, right? And we saw bigger houses. And then I feel like we saw an influx, a decade or two later, people coming back in the city. I mean, there just always are these trends that are happening. But to your point, yeah, more so getting the bigger house with more people in it, having dedicated office space, having homework stations, right? Having a pool or a thing like where people aren't traveling. We're seeing a lot of that where people want their house to be more like their vacation spot even, right? The pandemic has made people think, I want my place. I want my safe spot to be, and not only just in the house, but what does the yard look like? What are the amenities in the neighborhood? How do I just stay close?
That's so funny is actually almost all the hardware stores ran out last summer of fencing material.
Interesting. Isn't that something?
People were building privacy fences. They were fencing in their yard. They were getting that dog that they've always wanted. Their kids, the play sets and whatnot in the backyard and things like that. And I think okay, if I were to project what is going to happen in the future, I would think that somebody I work or a colleague I work with here said it the best is we are seeing a lot of non-MLS homes going for sale. And his speculation is that now people are super protective of their lifestyles.
Mm-hmm.
And they have gotten comfortable working from home and and comfortable being able to it's almost like a not necessarily, I don't know how to put it, like a self-care movement almost.
Sure. Well, it's interesting what you just said about building the fences. I think too, to your point of like pre-market stuff, like this is my area, this is my domain. Whether that's a physical space or just like your mental space, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. The pre-market stuff's interesting. There's a great market for it, and other times, a seller should just definitely get on the market. It's definitely something to chat about.
Well, and I am much of the same mindset as you are. I very much think that people should go on the market. I think that you get more money for your house. It's a win-win situation for a lot of people. I get really frustrated when I represent a family they're really good people and they have really good offers. We're talking 20% down, waiving inspections, and they lose out.
Right.
And it's hard to watch that over and over and over again. And because one of the statistics that we talked about last week in the economic findings that came out about the first part of 2021, meaning January and February, is that we only have 75% of the homes for 100% of the buyers. So, and that's what it really feels like. Every house has on average between 20 to 25 offers, I feel like.
It is. It's very true. And I tell you what, with the buyers we're working with, when they miss out, I'm like, all right, that's one less person you're competing with. And you're just hoping that those numbers start to dwindle down a little bit where your buyer can then be the chosen offer. But it is definitely a game of patience and flexibility right now. It is. And it's hard because you're right. We see these great people that we want them to be the chosen one. And at the end of the day, most sellers are going to go for the highest net with the least amount of hurdles.
Yeah.
We all would in that stance. But it is, it's heartbreaking.
You and I last week came to a head in this exact scenario. It was my buyer and your listing, and it's so hard. It is. And I want you to know that I stand with you on that because I understand what it's like to be on both sides.
Well, and that's just it, right? For any agent, you're advocating for your client that's in front of you, right? And so for a seller, what's your goal? Most often it's going to be your net proceeds. Okay, how do we get you the most amount of money for this house? And of course, now when you're on the buy side, how do we get you the best deal? Well, the deals aren't really out there right now for the majority. So how do we get you into a house with an offer that you feel comfortable with, right? It is a very delicate balance right now, and either side has their challenges for sure.
Yeah. Well, we're about to wrap up, and I just wanted to see if you had any wishes or statements that you want floating out around there about the changes in house sizes and generational living.
Yeah, well, I think, you know what I would tell people right now is think about your space. This is a really unique time to make some different decisions. Nobody is stuck in the ground in one spot, right? Like if you don't like where you're living or you want some changes, explore that. This is a really interesting time to do that, more so than ever. And we're hearing some really exciting stories of people up and moving out of state and buying, acreage because they can now. We've seen people move into the city because they don't want to spend their time maintaining a big house. So look at your living arrangements and question if it's really something you want to do. This could be a great opportunity. So
yeah, I know. I was talking to people about new construction a couple weeks ago, and new construction is really expensive here. On average, it's about $400,000, and not in Texas. In Texas, it's on average about $250,000 for the same size home. So if you want something, I mean, there's always a place, as the old adage goes, location, location, location.
Yeah. Right.
You can have that home, that lifestyle that you want, and it can be affordable if you're willing to make some changes.
Absolutely. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Well, thank you very much, Katie.
Thank you. This is so fun.
And you guys, we will be back on Wednesday with V, and I have my printout. Hold on. I always like to tell people what I'm doing next and pull out my binder here. Please excuse me while Wednesday, it will be favorite kid activities.
Ooh,
those are always fun. We do a weekend Wednesday, so we pick out what we're going to do for the weekend and things that you can take your family to, or restaurants you can visit.
Well, and the weather's improving, so it's opening up more outdoor activities for everybody too. So
thank God.
Right. Yeah. Well, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Have a great day.
You too. Thanks.